On a little bit of a shaky table here, and it's breakfast time, as usual. I've been busy with this stuff lately, haven't I? Well, today's March 17th, 2019. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome to this impromptu version of the Potter Expositor. Hopefully you can hear me okay. It is a little noisy in here, and I keep trying to adjust this so that it's a little bit better to view. Okay. I don't really want to talk about this Christchurch thing because that's what they're wanting us to do. They want us to focus on that and absolutely nothing else. Especially, they take good care of me here. Especially what they're concerned with is keeping our minds off of what's happening with the invasion here at our southern border. They're trying to shift that narrative, and they're also trying to get us off, of course, all of this information that's coming out on President Trump, and that not on President Trump, but this entire coup, and everything's coming out. The mainstream, not the mainstream, but more information now is starting to even come out about the Ukrainian connection with Clinton, Lukashenko, and all of that. There are some disinformation stories out there trying to get you off track about who actually wrote the dossier and those types of things. Steel is definitely involved. There's probably a Ukrainian that's involved, but it really goes back to Clinton and the DNC and Obama and those folks. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. But as important as those things are, and they're trying to change the narrative on us, the fact of the matter is I have to address a couple more things, and I'll probably do this again on Tuesday. Some of the information that's coming out on this New Zealand shooting, because as I predicted, this is a Five Eyes operation, and all of the details are now starting to fall into place. But I don't think anybody in our government, of course, and certainly not our news media, except for people possibly in the alternative media, will discuss this because it's contrary to the official narrative, right? And as I've said, Trump has threatened to expose, to declassify all that information that will point the fingers at the Five Eyes, and this is really, I think, aimed at him to show the types of things that they will do if he does that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So while I don't want to talk, I'm not going to name the shooter. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because, again, I think we need to talk about these things that are happening, uncovering the coup. The way that's all coming out now, that needs to be our focus. However, I do need to say a couple things, and I want to give credit to Paul Ferber for this, who's done an outstanding job. If you don't know who Paul Ferber is, he's a South African who's been involved in, a lot of things. The Q thing, for instance. I interviewed Paul about a year ago on the Q thing. Now, he's very much into the Q concepts. I am not. He could probably argue with me about that, but I don't think either one of us are going to change the other's mind. However, Paul's research and information is very good, so I'm giving him credit for the few things that I'm going to tell you about here. Before I go there, let me mention also one of the most important things about this stuff that's coming out on the coup is John McCain's involvement in trying to help to take part in the coup to take down President Trump. That's so important for us to understand because that really gives us a view of who's involved and what they were trying to do. They were coming after us. This whole thing in New Zealand is coming after us, not even Trump. It's coming after us, and I think everybody should understand that. Okay, so getting back to this information that Paul Ferber's put out. If you have Twitter, go to Paul Ferber, P-A-U-L, space, I think it's a space, F-U-R-B-E-R. Now again, Paul and I have had some disagreements on things, but we're certainly not enemies. I don't support Q at all, I'm saying that up front. But there's some very good things that Paul has pointed out here, and I want to get through that. Again, I'm not going to name the shooter. The media is saying that he's flashing a white power sign. How long have we been told that is a white power sign? Most of us, it means okay. So they're trying to change it to something else. In reality, as Paul points out, if you look into the occult, that's the signal for 666. not white power. And he brings that up. Very important. He also talks about the shooter doing the one eye move. Okay? In other words, he's signaling to the deep state, to the Luciferians of the New World Order. So that's another evidence that this thing is a Five Eyes driven program. Okay? This was this mosque had been used not too long ago to radicalize some Aussies who had, I guess, converted to Islam, who then went to Yemen, and one of them was killed in an American drone strike. This mosque is a problem. I'm not justifying going in and shooting unarmed people. I'm saying that this is obviously a setup to cause this war between the cultures, okay? War between the races, and to attack the Second Amendment and basically our Constitution and, of course, President Trump. There are some other indications in the manifesto that Paul pointed out. He showed that there are a number of places where the number 7 is used and the 322. So those things, again, are messaging to whoever programmed this guy to do this. And when you look at him, it's real obvious. Like I said yesterday, he's not the ultimate assassin. He made some mistakes, but he is well trained. He knew what he was doing, and he was cold-blooded about it. He wasn't just a regular person out there taking vengeance or trying to make a statement. I know I put out that thing with Blonde in the Belly of the Beast last night. From a sociological, psychological perspective and historical perspective, she's right on. But the additional information here is, of course, that this guy had some control over it. Okay, I think that's very obvious. Okay, he also brings out some time differentials. Do you remember the information that came out about Lee Harvey Oswald? You'll have to go back and look at this, but when the JFK assassination occurred, they were printing in New Zealand and in Australia. Gee, I wonder why that is. Five Eyes stuff again, right? They were printing in New Zealand and in Australia that the perpetrator had been arrested and his name was Oswald. Guess what? They put that information out when you study the timestamps prior to Oswald being arrested. There was no way they could have known that's who it was unless they were fed the information. Well, guess what? Shades of JFK and Oswald, the same thing has happened here. Let me tell you about this. This shooter posts his status at 1:26 UTC on the 15th. Only an hour after posting his links to the manifesto. That's weird in and of itself. But what's more important is that New Zealand time is 13 hours ahead of the UTC. What does this mean? This means that the shooter posted at 26 minutes UTC on the 15th, almost a full day prior to the shooting and the killing. As intelligent as the ICs are, why do they keep making these mistakes? Or are they mistakes? I'm not sure they're even mistakes. This is the kind of thing, I dealt with UTC. I dealt with military time. I dealt with what they call Zulu time. Okay? It's sometimes difficult to figure it out, but all you got to do is look at a chart. I'm not sure this was an accident. I don't know what the purpose was, but there's a time difference there. So in other words, he's posting almost a full day about the shooting. He's posting about the shooting almost a full day before he does it. A full day after, rather, the killing. Okay. Those are important things, just some of the stuff that we're finding out about. I could go into a lot more detail, but it is a little noisy here, and I don't want to upset too many of the people. I'm in kind of I think most of these people are probably conservatives, but I'm sure that there's a few liberals here and there in this crowd. Enjoying coffee as usual. The coffee is really great. Okay, so go check out Paul Ferber's timeline. Again, he's going to bring up the Q stuff. You can take that or leave it. I don't care. But his other information is very, very good. Okay, I also wanted to comment on the disgusting behavior of Fox News. You know, we're so afraid. I don't care if Omar is a representative. I mean, how come these networks can lambaste the President of the United States, call him names, do all of these, say all these terrible things about him, and nobody gets fired for that? But Janine Pirro comes out and brings out a very lucid, very true point about Sharia law and its incompatibility with the Constitution. If they want to worship Islam, that's fine. But they cannot institute Sharia law here. Let me tell you a story about that happened back in the 1800s. Thank you. I'm talking. She's taking care of me, but I'm talking too much. So, the story was this. The Mormons moved to Utah, right? They came out from Missouri, from the Midwest, and they settled in Utah. They started their own government here, and they called it the State of Deseret. They were implementing, basically, for lack of a better term, I could go into some more details, but just basically Mormon law. Let's just call it Mormon law. The United States government went to war against them for trying to subvert the Constitution of the United States in 1947. It was called the Utah War between, actually it was about, later it was after, just before the Civil War. So it's in the 50s, 1850s. Okay? The point is that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. If you want to practice your religion, if you want to abide by Torah, if you don't want to eat anything but kosher food, if you want to be a Muslim, and if you want to believe in Muhammad, if you want to believe that you should cut your daughter's genitals off, as long as it doesn't break our laws here, or whatever, right? That's your business. But the moment you cross the line and you start trying to enforce Sharia law across the board, you're violating our laws, and yet Fox chickens out because Pirro tells the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, as I don't know exactly who said it. I think it was Lee Stranahan. I think he's been telling, there have been others who are saying that Fox is not Trump's friend. He needs to switch over to OANN, and you need to flood him with tweets and with emails and YouTube videos, whatever, and tell him that Fox is not his friend, that they're lying to him, that everybody in the White House keeps him focused on Fox so that he gets very limited information, and that he should move over if he wants a big news service like Fox, even though OANN is smaller. He needs to move over to OANN. That's One American News Network. Jack Posovic's a part of that. All right. Liz Wheeler is an excellent anchor there, a commentator, and everybody that's there. Okay. So this thing, Fox is showing more and more that they're the enemy of the Constitution and the American constitutional republic. I mean, yeah, I know when you work for somebody, you're required to follow their rules, but to cover up for this invasion, for this, it's in the Quran. They're conquering us. They're conquering Western culture, and Fox is going along with it. For what reason? Ladies and gentlemen, we're in dire circumstances. We are in a position where we are in an awful situation, and something has to be done about it, and it's not going to be pretty. But the Constitution must be upheld by everyone, no matter what the cost. President Trump needs to act. How long have I been saying that? Again, Bill Barr might be going down the right road. We'll see shortly. I'm still holding back on that. I'm not real sure. Somebody says Jack Posobiec is not entirely genuine. Who is? Who is? Everybody's got an agenda. You take things and you weigh them, okay? Don't be narrow-minded. Don't be stiff-necked. Don't be tunnel vision, okay? Trump needs to act, and I'm waiting for him and Barr to do something. I just hope that he has the backup of military officers, and I don't mean the generals. Maybe a few of them, but military officers that'll be behind him. I'm not sure that he does. Okay, that's just a quick update. I don't know if I'll do any more before Tuesday. You never know. But we're being lied to on all sides. Everything's being suppressed, and this thing in New Zealand is doing exactly what they want to. Take the attention off of the coup here in the United States, cause the cultural war, demonize white people so that they could start this cultural war and make whites afraid so that they start maybe overreaching their defenses. Don't do it. Don't do it. Defend your homes and your lives, but do not do anything more. And number 4, of course, to take away our Second Amendment. That's all in a nutshell. But this difference in the time zone is very interesting. They shouldn't have made that mistake. Okay, everything I can do right now is out to you. It wasn't faked; it was controlled. I don't have my glasses on. Time to get. I'm not sure what that says, but he says New Zealand was fake. No, it was not faked. No way. No way. You have not seen the video. It was not faked. Okay? It was controlled. The guy was under a command structure telling him what to do. He had been trained. He had been to Pakistan. Let me tell you the places he's been. Some of the stuff they uncovered. He's been to several mosques. Pakistan, as somebody who doesn't like what's happening to conservative white America, so to speak, why would they go to Pakistan? He's been to Yemen. And there's some indications that the Mossad's been involved. No, it was not faked. It was a controlled attack for multiple purposes. All right? I'm not going to argue with you guys. No, and I've talked about Vegas before. I had a friend whose nephew was shot. I even put the picture of him in the hospital with a bullet hole in him. So stop giving me that stuff. You guys, you want to hope that everything is a television recreation. The world is real. Real things happen. Vegas was real. This New Zealand shooting is real. And there are going to be more. I'm going to be interested if something happens in the United States here to one of your family members. And people are saying, oh, that was fake, it's fake. And you're trying to tell them, hey, look at what happened to me. And they're not paying attention to you. There's a point where you have to understand the difference between a false flag that actually happens, because it's designed, it's strategized, the tactics are put into place, the cover story and all that, and a false flag that never existed in the first place, like the Gulf of Tonkin. I'm done today. Till next time, okay? I gotta go. We'll see you later out here. You have proof. Yeah.